it's the intersection of business and real estate. It is a real estate focused business. We buy and operate commercial real estate, but I have to build systems. I have to manage people, all those different things that lead us into getting guests at our short-term rentals and our hotels.
Welcome to the Real Estate Investing School podcast. I'm your host, Joe Jensen. Our guest today is Blake Dailey. Blake started with a single Airbnb unit, and over the last 5 years, he's scaled his business to 4 states, 30 plus employees, virtual and domestic. He's got over 200 current short-term rental listings that generate millions a year in revenue. Blake has insight and expertise on how to grow and scale short-term business, obviously, to earn passive income for an active lifestyle and investing opportunities for passive investors looking for the same. Blake, this is special. I don't know if we realize this. I think you're our first return guest. We had you back on like episode 40 or something.
Really, the first, man. I'm honored, and I'm here with both knees, so I feel like I'm doing pretty well for myself.
I'm excited to hear what's happened over the past, year or so. I think it was back in March of last year, 2023, that we met originally, and I know a lot's changed in your life since then with work and family and some of those stuff. I'm sure you've done a lot more real estate projects as well, but
it's been a very formative year since then.
Yeah. What are some of the big changes you've had with your military and the kids and everything going on?
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. I knocked a girl up. So got my wife pregnant. She's due in October, and we're super excited for that. Just becoming a dad, I think, is going to be a very fun challenge, like probably more so than all the business and real estate and short-term rental stuff. Like, I'm very, very excited for that. But we also sold a business since we talked last. We took those funds. We bought one very large hotel, 130 units. So it's kind of like the past 5 hotels that I bought put together on one property, 10 acres, 10 buildings, those 130 units plus an event venue. So that's taken up a lot of time and attention in a good way, though. We've been making really good progress with it, and we're finally about to get our renovation funds from our construction loan to start doing that. I separated from the Air Force just a couple months ago now, and it feels good to be a free man. We moved across the country. We've been traveling a ton and doing all this movement while my wife's just getting bigger and doing a lot of foot rubs. So
that is wild, man. That's a lot in one little moment right there. Let's dive into some of that. So one, congratulations. You guys are due in October, you said?
Yep, mid-October.
That's awesome, dude. That'll be a game changer for sure. That's super exciting.
I'm like excited and nervous at the same time. Like a conflicted thoughts. First child. It's a boy, so I feel like I've got a little bit more leeway. You know what I mean? Like I don't have to be the perfect parent. I'll just make him tougher. If I do bad things as a parent, he'll just be out there and have like some resentment and take it out on like his opponents or something like that in sports. So.
It's funny. I was just listening to this podcast that Brody shared with the group, and they were talking about successful people, and like almost all of the guys have this common theme of like, almost not necessarily resentment, but almost this like still trying to make dad proud because he never like told them they were proud of him. And like Michael Jordan, they're listing like all these like super successful people, and there's like that common theme. And I was like, man, I was just too loved and supported.
It makes you think about it, right? What you're gonna do as a parent, and even like relating it back to business for people that don't have kids, like how you lead your team, right? How you set them up for success. Probably a little bit different than you'd parent a little boy, especially going through sports. But I think those are the fun questions to answer, like how to maximize people.
Yeah, for sure. So a little neglect can push some people. So we'll see.
We say it like that,
if that works. But no, yeah, that's cool. That's awesome, man. So you left the military finally. You kind of finished your run there. Congratulations on that. How's that been going from military life to just like being in control of everything in your own world?
Man, I tell you what, I'm busier, believe it or not. Like I feel like having all that time that was utilized on my calendar as time for the Air Force or time working my job is now just like free, and it's mine to do what I see fit with. And I've just been like filling it with more meetings and more work and more stuff to do. So now I've had to like take a step back from that and kind of reassess. Like I feel like I was very, very good with my time management, my productivity, my, managing my schedule really well while I was in, because I had to, like, I didn't
Yeah.
have any other choice. And now that I've got the additional freedom, it's like I got to rebuild the discipline and really try to get it to where, like, all right, Blake, like, slow down, dude. You don't have to wake up at 4:30 and just start working and then go to work and work during your lunch break and then come home to work and then work all weekend. Like, you don't have to do that anymore. You can just set up, right, like, whatever work day works for you. So if I want to get up at 4:30 still and work out and come back and start my work day at 8 or 9 or whatever and work until the evening, like, I can actually enjoy an evening and just not do things and hang out with Nicole or whatever that looks like, and get a little bit more better, get better work-life balance. But I think in the grand scheme, it's been awesome. We've traveled a bunch. I think it's really cool if anybody's listening to this has been in the military and then not, like, or just not in the military, you don't realize that you have to put in a leave request and get your supervisor to accept it. And then, like, it's this whole process to go take a couple of days off, or, even to go like from Salt Lake to Denver, right? Like when we lived there, just to go like a 7-hour drive, like, I got to put in leave, take time, like, do all this stuff. It's like, I'm going to be back before work's even here. Why do I have to take leave? So now, not to have to do that, to just be able to go places. Me and Nicole have been to, California and Texas, Arkansas, Indiana, Georgia, Florida, California, Utah, like all these different places the last couple of months. And it's been maybe a little bit too much travel, but it's kind of been cool because we just can. So we have, and just figuring out how to work on the road kind of mobily has been pretty fun. So yeah, I think it's been super positive. And like the challenges have just been things I got to work through. It's normal entrepreneur stuff. So just got to, discipline myself a little bit more.
I love it, man. One thing that's really interesting, you mentioned, you're like, now that you have more freedom and more time, it can so easily just be filled in with work. And that was something I remember when I started doing like real estate as like my main focus. I was like, the tasks are never done. It's not like something where like, well, I'll just get the things done, and then when, I'll go play afterwards. It's like, it's unlimited amounts of work.
You can work until your fingers are just bone, right? Yeah. I think you gotta like figure out the right things to work on. And how I like to think about it is like the most important next step thing, right? Like, you have your goals. Like, first of all, if you don't have a clear direction of what your goals are, sit down, take some time, thought practice of just kind of shutting out everything and like asking yourself what you really want, ideally in like a short enough time span, like the next quarter, the next year, so you can actually work towards it. And then just plan out your day. Like, what's my most important next step to get to that thing for the quarter? And you just break that down. Like, is this taking this random meeting with somebody when I'm trying to, like, when we could be on this podcast, or I could be meeting with my team, or I could be working on something. Like, do I need to just fill my calendar with that kind of stuff? Probably not. So then it like helps clarify what you need to actually be doing. And then all the little pop-up tasks, like, you can do those in between, or you can hire an admin or something, or you can hire a handyman. A lot of times as real estate investors, we want to do everything ourselves. Like, that $15, $18 hire might be the best thing you ever do, just to get yourself out of doing the thing so you can step back, work on the business and not in it. So
yeah, I found like it can be really valuable to either like one of two ways. One, make sure to schedule in the things that matter to you that aren't work. Like you said, schedule in that free time, schedule in that play day, schedule
I had to start doing that, like with date nights, right? Because especially like when you're telling your family, your wife, your kids that you're going to do something with them, and then you don't, like, that's a bigger disappointment than you not showing up on, one of your meetings with somebody with your team, right? Because that's just business, and just work that has to be done, right? You could be motivated by the mission, what you guys are doing, but at the end of the day, it's just work. Like the relationships and your family and stuff are the more important things. And those are like, if you're balancing all these balls, like out of the one thing, the book, like, you have glass balls and rubber balls, like, drop the rubber ones because they'll bounce back up. You can pick them right up. But like, the family is the glass one. Don't drop that. So I really had to start scheduling in that. So we have date night every Friday night. And I always say, like, whether she came home and was tired from work, or I had a long week or whatever, be like, it's Friday night. We're going out. Like, you can't be in a bad mood. You can't be crappy because it's Friday night. So I love that saying in our house, like, can't be in a bad mood. It's Friday.
I love that.
That's a good one for us. And then we have, we call it the State of the Marriage meeting on Tuesdays. So every Tuesday, we just actually moved it to Wednesday because I adjusted my calendar a little bit for better time utilization. But every week for the last, I think we probably started this in November or December. So a little bit under a year now, we've been meeting every week, talking over our couple goals, which we have like hey, we want to, take a vacation to a new place per quarter. We want to go somewhere international this year. We want to have X amount of net income by the end of the year. We want to have like all of her student loan debt paid off, like whatever those things are. Talk about them, assess where we're at, ask each other how we need to be loved this week, what do we got going on, where you need help. And that stuff really, really helps ground us as a couple. Cause like, that's the stuff that's important, right? Like I think the work stuff, especially like this is in the evening, like put the work down for a little bit anyway. Like you need a break from it and just focus on what really matters.
I love that, man. Yeah, I found that I had to start putting like a time cap on myself. Say at this hour, like I'm done working, like no matter what. You know what I mean? Like, because if not, I would just
that's hard to do, man. Because
it's like, and when you're trying to build a life of freedom, though, it's so funny because a lot of people talk about freedom, but then like all they do with that freedom is fill it in with more work. What's the point in that, right? So I had like put a cap. I'm like, I can't work past these hours, no matter how much needs to be done, because it will never end. And you need to start structuring and retraining your brain, because we get so used to grinding for so long that when things start to pivot, we don't know how to like let it go, but you need to retrain that if you're actually going to start living a life of flexibility.
That is exactly, I feel like we're talking to like my subconscious right now, because that's exactly what I'm going through. And it's funny because I think a lot of times for most people listening to this, the hard truth is probably that you need to be doing more, that you need to be like getting more reps in, analyzing more deals. Like a lot of people that are listening to podcasts, reading books are growth minded, right? So you're trying to get to the next thing, or you're still stuck like in that, maybe I've got my first or second rental, but I'm really trying to get to that financial freedom number, that like the passive income that I need. Like bust your butt to that. Like you can work on like a lot of times, you hear, like me or Joe talk about like work-life balance, like that comes after a lot of the times. Like I didn't get honestly to where I'm at now with healthy work-life balance. And a lot of people would have been burned out to, buy 5 hotels in a year and then go sell that business after building it and then go buy a 130 unit hotel. There's a lot involved in that, and a lot of late nights, and most people, burn out or don't have the consistency to just keep going. Like you just cannot quit. And so the balance is super, super important, but I look at it as the seasons. So I kind of just am on the back end of a season of just grinding my butt off, got through the deal, started the operations, got the team in place. We're in a good spot operationally. Income is increasing, and we're getting a renovation fund soon. So that's kind of like the closeout of that phase of grinding. And like now I'm hiring some more people, bringing some more people on the real estate business to go to grow the company and buy more, bringing more people into the operations, like keep it stable. So that I can like, all right, now we're in a different season, so I can step back, work on the balance a little bit now. And you just like stair step your way up, right? You're going to have to go through these seasons where you grind your freaking butt off. Then you got to pull back, like invest in the relationships, like spend the time with your spouse, have the weekends and like the evenings that you take off. So that's what I'm doing now is like, I just moved back, like my mastermind calls from earlier in the day, so they end at 5, and then I have my evening, because like working starting at 5 a.m. and going until 8 p.m. like that, you can only do that for so long. You do need the balance over time, but I think a lot of times in the beginning, just keep going until you're like, all right, now it's time I can pull off a little.
100%, especially when you don't have the kids or the spouse or those things to focus on, because those things are the glass balls that matter more. But it's like when you don't, like sprint with that. Like every hour, every day, every week, every year you put in before you have the kids and the wife, that's the time you can now spend with them, but if you spend it wasted when it's just you, it's like you're going to have to steal it from your future spouse and your future kids because you didn't do it now.
Yeah, so that's a conversation me and Nicole were very intentional about up front, or at least I was, with like telling her this, and she just happened to be a way better woman than I deserve, and stuck with it on this. It was like, hey, at least our early to mid 20s, like I'm thinking of our first 5 years of marriage, like I'm grinding on the business, building the portfolio, getting us financially secure. Because when we're in our, when we're 30, early 30s, when we have kids, when they're growing up, like I don't want them to be growing up in the phase that I like just lived through with everything I did, with the new deals, with selling the company, with building the new one, with hiring more people. Like that is a very detached, like laser focused Blake. Like that Blake is very hard to go play with the kids or, take time off to like go to the park or whatever that is. So I was very intentional, like I'm doing it now. And then I just had to be very, very good about when me and Nicole have those times, on the state of the marriage or the date night or the weekends or the little trips, that it's like, put the phone down. Like you just busted your ass for 5 days in a row for like 12 plus hour days. Nothing's going to fall apart in these 2 days. Like keep that glass ball good. But like we were intentional about doing that work up front so that we had the freedom later on built in because the work was already done. And of course, like I'm going to continue to work hard, right? It's just a different alignment of work. And then you also get to the point where your work is higher leverage. Like when you have a business, when you have people, you have managers in your company, you really steer the ship and they help you get the work done. Like you're not doing everything yourself anymore. So the time you work, right, you might work less, but you get way more done because you have the infrastructure underneath you. And that's what you need to build. It's like you just extend the lever and then apply, it takes less force to get the same amount of action out. And that's the really cool fact about business is you don't have to work as hard as you do your first 5 years to get to multi-millions. Like your first million is so hard, but the next 2, 3, like they get much easier.
I love that, man. Let's pivot a little bit. Let's talk about how what you bought, what you put together, and then what you sold, because the way you look at real estate, the way you talk about it is a little different than some people. It's very much like I said, business. It's like you're building a business, you're buying a business. And what you do with your short-term rentals and your niche boutique motels and stuff like that, it is more of a business than just like buying a duplex and putting tenants
in. It really
in.
is. And I'll preface that like
it's a whole different world.
Yeah, it's the intersection of business and real estate. It is a real estate focused business. We buy and operate commercial real estate, but I have to build systems. I have to manage people. Like I have to, focus on my customer retention, my market, like all those different things that lead us into getting guests at our short-term rentals and our hotels. Like we have, these big KPIs that we're focusing on. Whereas like if you're just investing in real estate, you're focused on your leads and like maybe your cash balance and just like getting more deals. So, and I think the evolution came from like I started in residential real estate, worked my way up to commercial, which I think in most cases, the sooner you can make that transition, the better, because your lever extends and you get more leverage out of your actions, right? You have bigger deals. You're now valued on the income of the property. You have enough revenue to then hire people so that you're not doing the stuff. So I love commercial real estate. It's much more passive as an asset class. Right now I'm doing the business side of it. So that's like the real estate is not a lot, but the operations company, the management of the hotels is. Yeah. But I started on the residential side where I was very just like my skill set early on was finding deals. Like I did everything with, cold calling sellers, going to meet, potential sellers in their living rooms at like a 22, 23-year-old kid, really very green behind the ears. Like, what's this slick talker got to say? And just really wanted to like do the best I could at being a deal finder. So like scrubbing lists, direct mail, driving for dollars, the cold calls, the late evening meetings with these sellers, like however I could find leads. Like I wanted my goal to like find the best deals because I didn't have money, right? Like you either got to bring deals, bring capital, or like bring the hustle and the experience to get all this stuff together. Like the 3 things that you really need to put together the deals. I was like, my thing's going to be deals because I don't have the experience and I don't have money. So it kind of, that's the only thing I can do. So I got really good at finding the deals, and I got to that point right in the first, probably a little bit over the year. We got to the point where the residential real estate, long-term rentals and short-term rentals, I think we had 11 units. The W-2 income, or excuse me, my cash flow, net cash flow after all the expenses was now more than my W-2 income. So I was like, boom, right there. That was my 5-year goal because I had a 5-year Air Force commitment. And it happened pretty quickly because I was just very intent on like the action that it took to get deals, and stuff worked out. Usually it happens like that when you have a really good deal. Like you find ways to fund it, find a partner, whatever, find the capital, whatever that situation is. And I have that backbone of the residential real estate where we still have like even higher now than the cash flow from our real estate is, or from just the residential. So then it gave me more risk tolerance to go do these bigger deals and also more experience now. And now I'm thinking like in my phase that I can spend more effort on one deal in a condensed amount of time, right? 3 to 6 months to buy the deal, get it set up, build the team, and then elevate out of the operations and let that thing run. And I can continue that and, even make it faster. Whereas like residential is like, you just continue to build. Like another house is like that much more workload. You don't get that much more cash flow from it. So I'm thinking much longer now because I have the financial background, like the solid financial background of the residential side, the short-term rentals, the houses. And I can go do the business side of buying the hotels, and that's much more scalable, right? Because not only do I have the commercial real estate, but I have the management company that runs it all. So I can sell the real estate, or I can sell the management company. I could sell them both together. Like there's a lot of exit plans there, and all of them are like, my plan is like, somewhere in the 50+ million range exit in like early 30s probably, and take that and buy more passive real estate. And then like the active business over the next couple of years in this grind phase then plays out to a much, much bigger passive portfolio later. So I'm just like skipping the steps, I think.
I love that, man. Let's talk a little bit about what you have sold then, because you put together a pretty impressive portfolio and kind of a business, a whole system. Maybe kind of break down what you structured and then how you sold it and what that looked like, because that's different than what most people do. I'm excited to learn some details on that.
Yeah. So what I sold was 4 hotels that I owned with a partner and the management company that operated those hotels. And then separate from that portfolio that we owned together, the management company also managed another hotel that I owned by myself, small 8-unit, and then the rest of my short-term rentals. So we built that OpCo infrastructure, the management company infrastructure, to manage everything that we both owned. And when it came down to it, we want to go our separate ways, amicable partner split, and we just sold the portfolio that we owned together. And it was a sale of the real estate and of the valuation of the management company, based on the cash flows that the management company got from owning the real estate. So 2 different value drivers, 2 different like components to the sale, but one transaction, right? And then from that, had that pool of money, went and bought the one single bigger hotel. So does that answer the question? Like we had the real estate company, the PropCo that I would call it, and then the OpCo, the management company. So sold both the PropCo and the OpCo. So like the management company was the one that ran everything. That's where all the employees were, right? Our property managers, our cleaners, our e-concierge team who do all of our guest messaging, our director of operations, marketing, like everything that runs what we have, like that is the business. Like the real estate is just, a P&L essentially. Like you just make sure you pay the utilities, make sure you fix deferred maintenance, like, and then as the managers, we run everything that happens in that property.
So what was the main motivation to sell off that portfolio? Was it because you guys wanted to kind of do your own thing as partnerships and that was the easiest way to liquidate it? Was it because you created such a value add that you could get an awesome exit? Or like what was kind of the motivation?
I think a little bit of both. Like, all these were big value add hotels, right? So we bought them very cheap comparatively, right, to what was on the market. For sure, we bought like just over the cost of the land that was right across from the beach in Panama City. So very good buy, right? So we're adding a lot of value to these properties over the course of the renovation, increasing the income, and because they're commercial real estate, they're valued based on the net operating income, which we increased a lot on those properties. So that was the plan, right? It was basically, we went into it thinking it was a big bird deal. So buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat, but with short-term rentals and hotels. So we're doing the same exact thing at a much bigger scale. So our goal was to buy them, renovate them, refinance, get that money back, and just hold for the long term for cash flow because they're in great markets and they're pretty good assets after we did, the renovations, like everything was fixed up. The only deterrent or the only alternate to that plan was that I think my partner and I at the time, the reason the split happened, it was because there was a lot that happened in those 2 years, right? And we were both in the Air Force at the time. He's the pilot, had to fly. So I think it was like, oh man, like I kind of want to slow down. And I'm the crazy one. I was like, I want to keep going. It was like, cool, let's, high five, tag team each other out of here. I stay in the ring and he'll go do something different. So I wanted to continue buying the hotels. So we just found a value from the portfolio. Assess the value of the management company, combine those together for one exit. And we would have made more if we would have stabilized the whole portfolio, because this was post renovation, right? You need at least the 12 months of solid financials to get the maximum value. So we didn't quite get there on the last like 2 hotels. They're a few months shy of it. So it wasn't like maximize the value and out. It was just like, hey, we need to do this now. So let's, figure out as friends what the best way to do this is. And, it was enough to go for the fresh start, I think, for both of us. So it was a good move.
And what kind of buyer, how do you find a buyer to buy a portfolio like that? And was that difficult? Was it like crazy negotiations, or there's buyers for that? Like, what kind of buyer does that?
I think like the exit really for like the boutique hotel game, right, is you buy a hotel, fix it up, renovate it, and find somebody who has the hotel experience that's going to come in and buy a business, right? They're going to be a hotel operator that comes and buys the hotel. Now, where it gets really cool is if you get a big enough portfolio or a big enough hotel, now your buyers can be hedge funds or REITs or private equity groups that, private equity hospitality groups that come in and buy these hotels and take them under their ownership and management as well to maximize even more. Because I'm sure there's, big private equity groups out there that do hospitality better than myself at this stage. Not always, but right now, right? So they can still buy something that you value added. They can still value add it, and they're going to roll it up in a bigger portfolio. So like that's kind of your exit. And that's what I'm thinking right now is, we continue to buy in these destination markets and, get a couple dozen hotels across the country that, spreads out the risk, spreads out the seasonality, get a really big income stream and sell the whole portfolio in one transaction to one big company. But for us, so it's just kind of like giving the lay of the land. Like you can buy to the operators all along that spectrum, but they're going to be people who want to buy and operate that as a business. So you're value adding, think about it. You're not just going to sell to another investor like yourself, or a mom and pop owner,
right?
Because like they're going to want to do everything themselves. So like you kind of get in the range where now you're too big for like smaller single investors, but you can almost be too small for like the bigger investors too.
Yeah.
So like what we dealt with was that we tried selling both of our properties individually. It's 15 units and 18 units in Panama City. And we did not really get bites. We got questions, we sent financials, we had some discussions, but never like any solid offers because individually they were too big for small people, but they were too small for big investors. So like nobody wanted to buy it. But as a portfolio, now you can like operate more efficiently, right? You're spreading one manager over 2 properties. You're spreading maintenance over 2 properties. Like all your expenses get split up so it maximizes the NOI of each property and increases the value. So they're more valuable together than apart. Now that's a little bit different. Like when you get to the 130 unit hotel like mine, like that one stands on its own. But for the smaller deals, you actually have a better exit because somebody can come into that and not have to do everything themselves, which you're not going to go sell a $2-3 million property where the owners have to come do the cleaning and be the maintenance guy and be the front desk and all this other kind of stuff. Like a business owner is going to buy that and want a team in place, and you need the scale to do that. So that's where you like when you break above $1 million, $2 million in revenue, where you have adequate margin, then you have a much higher, much bigger buyer pool.
Yeah, the benefits of scale are really cool, like you say, because it can make everything more affordable. Like I always say that with people who want to do short-term rentals. I don't do short-term rentals. Obviously, I've interviewed a lot of people to do Airbnb and stuff. But what I've seen is the guys who are making money on it is when they bundle it. And you do the hotel, so you just do kind of an automatic bundle. But you're even bundling the hotels.
Get more, but it's like more in one market. Yeah.
Yeah, if you have 5 or 10 short-term rentals in the same area that you self-manage, and you can have the same maids, the same cleaning, the same like that benefit of scale, that's where the guys like making really good money with it are. But if you have like one random one here, one random one here, it's a lot harder to, especially if you're trying to hire out management. It's like there's no money.
And just for example, for people like why that's so important, like imagine you have one house, right? You have a contracted cleaner. They're going to charge you $150 to clean your 3-bed, 2-bath house. That might even be cheap. Let's call it 200, round it up. Now, when you get the second and third unit in that market, you can go to that same cleaner and say, hey, instead of 200 for each additional one, what about 180, right? And then you add those ones on, and then you start adding them at 160 per turn. So your cleaning costs come down as you scale out, and that happens across your supplies because now you can buy in bulk. Your cleaning costs, which we talked about, it doesn't really affect like your utilities, but like any contract services that you have, lawn maintenance, plumbing, like, hey, I can give you this whole portfolio if you do this at X amount of price instead of your regular. So it's more bulk for them, but a lower price, and you get the price savings with the portfolio. And now just multiply that by 10 with a hotel because it's built in. So you're operating more efficiently. And then that's why like that second hotel, or really it's like a revenue figure. If you can get over $1 million in revenue, you're going to have a good chunk of buyers because there's going to be the margin there to have the team. And that's the cool thing, man. And that's in every realm of commercial real estate, right? Going from single family to multifamily, or, you rent out your garage or go buy storage units, or, it's in all of them. So I think that's the really cool benefit of commercial real estate, is that scalability. And it becomes, yes, more of a business. You have to manage more things. It's not, quite as passive as setting up the deal, but the management of that whole system, of that whole portfolio, is way, way easier.
Yeah, that's something that attracts me about the commercial, like the more scaled stuff, because it seems like, oh man, like, it seems like, oh, that's going to be a lot more difficult because there's so many units, like owning a hotel or apartment building or whatever, it's like, that's a lot. But like I say, once you hit a certain point, there's enough there that you can hire an in-house team, hire in-house management.
Yes.
Like when you have 100-unit apartment building, you're not self-managing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hope
Like,
not. If you are, you're doing it wrong.
That's crazy, but there's enough there that you can actually have, and probably a maintenance guy that lives in the building, and there's enough there that it can really run on its own. When you just have a dozen of your own individual things, it's like you're kind of running around and you can't bundle that all together necessarily the same way if they're not in the same location. So anyway, like I said, the bigger you go, sometimes the easier it is, because now you're forced to hire it out, manage it right, run it right. And
that's why I say, get to a commercial as soon as you can. Like, it doesn't, you don't necessarily need to jump into the deep end and try to go syndicate a 100-unit apartment complex for your first deal. But, close a few deals, do some rehabs, do a small multifamily. And then once you raise some capital, work with contractors, go through title insurance and getting an insurance quotes and all that kind of stuff. It's just the same things. The same base actions that you're doing. It's just more detailed, and you just ask more questions as you go, and you learn it along the way. But so I say, get there sooner, right? If you get enough experience, it's really how much you feel confident with, right? As the person making that jump. There's no set threshold. You don't need to do 5 deals and then go to commercial. If you do 1 deal and then go do your first commercial deal, it's all in your own comfort level and your own risk tolerance.
Yeah. So let's talk about your most recent project then. You've been tackling, you bought a big, you buy these hotels, you turn them into Airbnbs virtually. What's the difference between a hotel and Airbnb really nowadays? But maybe break that down. Just kind of tell some details about this project.
Yeah. So the first 5 were definitely, like you just said, they were these hybrids of hotels, Airbnbs. You've got the consistency and quality of a hotel, but the amenities, the self-check-in, the ease of booking of an Airbnb, all in one property. No management on site, no front office. You just book, go to your room, check in. It's that hybrid, right? It's a commercial building, multiple units on site. Now the new one is very much a hotel with a splash of short-term rental operations, and obviously having the units live on Airbnb and stuff like that. But it's a hotel. This one, they were all hotels, but this one is the most on the spectrum of hotel because it's an actual hotel. But we have a front desk at this property because we have 130 rooms. It's just a big property and people come there. So we're probably not going to ever be able to fully eliminate that. We are upgrading our smart locks that, you can use your phone as the key, or you can come to the office and get a key card, because a lot of our guests down in this area in Southeast Tennessee are older, and they come to the peaceful side of the Smoky Mountains, which it's called, to be, closer to nature, not so in the crazy touristy areas that are super busy and loud and stuff like that. So we have a little bit older demographic, and I think that's important to understand, is if you're going to completely modernize everything, but if your typical guest is 50 plus, they're probably not going to resonate with your product that you're providing too much. So you need to understand what you're providing. So we have the front desk. We have full on housekeeping. It's on 10 acres with 8 different buildings. So we've got housekeeping closets in each one. We've got 1 laundry facility right now on site. We're building a second so that we can do 4 buildings here, 4 buildings there, of our hotel buildings. We've got a general manager, assistant general manager, 3 maintenance staff, and including a head of maintenance, housekeeping leads, laundry leads. We've got, I think, 15 or 16 employees that are housed at this hotel. Wow. And then the management company staff manages the hotel staff. And we work together, right? There's a lot of carryover there. I'm still helping with some of the things, still, maintaining the general contractor relationship. I've mostly handled off all the vendor relationships, but we're working as a team, but it's a big enough property that it supports its own staff.
Yeah, which is so cool. So it's a straight up hotel. So the goal here is you buy this hotel and you increase the NOI, you increase, streamline the operations, and then you sell it to a bigger player. Is that kind of like you were describing earlier?
Yeah, exactly. Yep. It's modernizing the business model, right? Like before they had the direct booking website, it was very, very poor. So that we did that. We created a new one right away. They were only on booking.com and had terrible reviews. So booking.com wasn't even a big source of bookings for them. It was mostly just like random call-ins and walk-ins and people who would go to the site, but the site was like super hard to use. So they had to drop off some conversion. So they were not really competing anywhere near the comp set in that market. So I knew right away, just by coming in, fixing the operations, modernizing how, like, the business plan, I mean, like how guests find you, how you market, how you integrate your booking systems, how you manage your channels and your calendar, like simple stuff, right? Like you have Airbnb and Expedia and booking.com and your direct booking website, they all sync to one calendar and you have one inbox. Like that's what a PMS, that's the software that you do like manage this stuff with. Like doing that's easy and it doesn't take a lot of like energy and effort. Like what's more on this one is like improving the reputation, getting better reviews, dealing with the like unrenovated parts of the property while we're renovating other parts, like housekeeping over, 16 housekeeping closets that get funneled from one laundry room. So it's very operationally involved and some parts complex. So in that regard, it's like, it's very much hotel, but we've got the splash of, the Airbnb-esque of it, right? Like really trying to focus on the amenities, really the appeal, the pictures, the marketing, like everything about how you find the property, check in, book. Like we want all that stuff to be very, very smooth and then just run it really, really well with our team on site. And then what you get from that is better reviews, better reputation, this virtuous cycle of more people finding you, more people booking you, making more money. Then over 12 to 24 months, you stabilize the property, you double, triple the revenue, which is the goal on this property too. Refinance, get the money back, and then we hold it to sell it to a big buyer for double or more than we bought it from in a few years.
That's awesome, man. It's so crazy to think of like how you can just see that you're very passionate and focused on what you do. You start with an Airbnb, which is everything you described on like the smallest level.
Right.
And you're like, well, I'll just do that bigger and better. And then I'll do that bigger and better. I'm going to do these little motels. No, I'm going to do, a couple of these boutique hotels. And now you're just buying how many units?
Dude, it was all like refining the skill. It was exactly that thinking the whole time. Like I couldn't go buy the big 15-floor condo building in Panama City Beach, was where we used to live and what got me into hospitality and the Airbnbs and all that stuff. Like, but I'd always drive down the beach, or we'd be sitting on the beach hanging out and be like looking at it. Like, I want to buy that thing. How cool would that be to have whatever it is? 300, 400, 500 rooms. They're probably completely full tonight. It's a July weekend in Panama City Beach. Like the thing is full. Like how much revenue do you think they're earning? Probably a couple $1,000,000 just for that one night right there. Like it's crazy. So like that's what got me into it. And it was like we start, like my very first one was 8 units. And then we went to I think like 15, 16, 14, and then 20. So it's like all in that realm, but we really managed it well like a portfolio. Like I wanted to prep for the bigger, better deals with more margin. And then we just did it with this one. So now it's like, how do we buy these really cool properties, these landscape resorts that are operations focused, that are team focused, that are barriers to entry for other people, that we can go generate $5 to $10 to $15 million per year in revenue on these properties, wrap up a portfolio of them over the next 5 to 10 years, sell it to, whoever, Blackstone or something like that, hopefully get a huge exit and, then just go buy a bunch of passive real estate.
So you had the bigger vision from the beginning. You were kind of like, it was just like, how fast can I get there? How much can what do I need to learn?
Like with anything, you kind of know the direction that you want to go. Cause I think hospitality for me is so cool. Like Airbnbs, the creativity of it, the almost the competition of it. Like I want to be the best Airbnb in my market, right? Like I want the best reviews. I want the most revenue. Cause you can see that stuff on AirDNA now. Whereas long-term rentals is like, maybe granite countertops is how you stick out. Like they're very, very, very plain. Like there's not a lot of passion in that for me, though I love real estate. And I've had a lot of long-term rentals. I still have an apartment complex in North Carolina. So I love that and I'll buy more of them. but it's not like what I want to build my business around, not what I like doing necessarily. So that comes from like the quick turns, like the business side of it. Like it's much more interesting for me, like on the STR side and hotel side, to really be creative with it. And I like these boutique properties. Like people always ask, like, are you going to go buy some Hiltons or Marriotts? Some of the flag hotels, I'm like, probably not, maybe one day, but that's not like my goal anytime soon, because it's just a box. Like it's just a box property. It's no different than like commercial multifamily, but you've got like an extra point or two on the cap rate. So it's like you do all that extra work for not much more return. But on the boutique side, and like a boutique hotel always is a small, independent, unique hotel. Like that's kind of what makes it up. Those you can crush on. You can 2 to 3x the revenue and the value and make it something special, something that wasn't there before. It's cool to me.
Yeah, well, and it's like I said, how do you value add on a Marriott? Like they've already got it dialed. Like it's going to be what it is. You're not going to go in and make it so much cooler. Like it is what it is.
Yeah.
But these boutique ones,
maybe a Waldorf. Unique. If they start like selling Waldorfs just like on the market, might try to buy one of those.
Just to have one.
If anybody wants to lend me like $100 million to go buy a Waldorf, I'd be happy for that.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Like it's crazy to see how far things can go. I want to talk a little bit about cash flow and profit. So, you talk about, millions of dollars of revenue, because you can have a lot of money coming through a door and not a lot sticking, or there's so many expenses too. It's like, but now we got to re-landscape and that's $300,000 here. And the new, it's like money can disappear really fast too when you're doing bigger stuff. How
100%.
Do you even think about like the cash flow and the profit that you're like putting in your pocket along the way, or is it just the 3-5 year plan of like the exit and that's when it's all there? Like all the other money along the way is just self-sustaining and building.
That's a really good question, man. The last part, like thinking about what money comes into your pocket, my wife tells me I need to think more like that, but I'm just like, throw back into the business, man. Yeah. But no, I think in the beginning it was very much like that. Like, as long as we could return to our investors and have an adequate profit margin in the deal, I'll delay my satisfaction all day long, right? Like as long as I can promise what I'm delivering to my investors who are trusting me to give, putting their money in the deal, I'm running it and managing it. It's my responsibility to take their money, give them back more, right? And like hit the returns that I project at the outset. So that's always like my number one focus. Now, like as things have developed, probably, 2-3 years into it, we bought 4 or 5 hotels at the time. Then it became like, all right, we really kind of need to make sure that we assess this, that it makes enough money for us to even do the deal, right? Because if you're going to buy a hotel and only make $20,000 on it, right? You might give your investors 20% returns, but if you're only going to make $20,000 a year, there's no reason for a time involved in that you shouldn't just go buy a short-term rental and make that net that same $20K a year, right? So we definitely pivoted more towards that. And now, like I won't look at a deal if I can't net 6 figures on it personally. It's not worth the time. And that's like, you might hear that and say that's crazy or think that's crazy if you're listening to this, but like you do enough deals, like these deals are producing $1 to $4+ million per year. Like if I can't net 6 figures out of that, like what's the point? Like, and even to manage something like if somebody else had a hotel, like if you're not generating $1 million+ in revenue where I can like have a 10 to 15% management fee and be good margin for me, it's a lower than you get on the market. Like it's just not worth it. So you really got to like think about, especially like as being not a government man anymore, like we gotta feed ourselves now, and we've always just kind of plowed it into the business for the last 5 years. So I think generally like the deals cash flow really well, which is why I like them. Like we've always been able to give great returns to investors, and now with like Tremont, we're really fighting to make sure we can still hit our Q4 projection or Q4 distribution, even though the USDA has delayed us with our refinance closing, which affects how much money we're going to make this year in the high season. But like my mind is like by all means, we do what we got to do to, one, maintain the reserves to run the deal healthily, and then 2, distribute to the investors so that they can promise what we got there. So like my third consideration is always how much I'm going to make on it, but I'll make a couple $1 million on this deal over the life of it. So I'm not really worried with year one. And the cool thing is about hotels is the real estate's one side of it. If you manage it and do the OpCo side, you can pull, 10, 15, 20%, depending on the size of your hotel, of the management fee, right? Because the STR management is 20, 25, 30%, depending on the
Yeah.
market. You're going to do it for 15 or less likely because it's more revenue. You can afford to do that. And then you've got another 6-figure revenue stream right there. And then you have like less expenses. So like that's how you kind of fund yourself in the meantime, while the property builds in equity and grows and you get your return later on. So you have like the delayed gratification on the real estate side, plus the immediate hitter from the management fees, which is a nice little perk because you don't get that in multifamily, right? You don't get that in storage. Like it's a true 3 to 5 year play to even get paid as a GP typically.
Yeah, and you can structure in, and you're doing these as like syndications. Then you're syndicating these to
This last one was, this was the first hotel that I syndicated. The rest were like debt raises, so just a burr, right? People get their money back, or it was partnerships. But yeah, this was the first syndication on the Tennessee one.
And you can structure in just like a management fee to put an acquisition deal together. Like hey, like from the get go, when you raise the money, there's cost for rehab, there's cost for purchase, and there's cost for you for doing it. And you can
exactly. Well, it's like an ongoing phase. So it comes out of the revenue just like any property management fee would. And it's either you're going to have a third party manager that doesn't care about the hotel as much as you would, and probably doesn't like if you're buying your first hotel, right? Your inclination might be to go hire a short-term rental manager, a management company, but they don't know hotels. Probably less than you, and they're probably going to be less inclined to learn the differences of hotels and short-term rentals. Because I can tell you from owning both, my hotel ops are very different, and there's way more leverage points than in the STRs. Like it's just simpler. It's more straightforward. Like they're not accustomed to doing all the extra work, and that's why like I want to own the systems and hire the people, and then they are directly accountable to how we set things up, as opposed to a third-party management company that has, they've got client responsibility, but they don't really care, like it's their business to them.
Man, it's so interesting, because this is what I love about real estate is like it touches so many parts of life, like say, because we're really talking about business here, not real estate. And the mindset is so different in so many ways, but so much carries over. And it's cool to see where you've taken it. We're obviously, I can't believe it's already been like 45 minutes. I was like, I feel like we just started talking. I'm like, what the heck? I want to dive into some of our final 4 questions and be able to have some time to kind of expand on those. But if people want to learn more about what you're doing, you're putting on a conference to actually be able to teach this, because it's pretty unique. And you talk about finding the niche within the niche, and that's what you do. That's what you're doing. When is your conference? How can people be a part of that? Also, if they just want to like follow you and learn more, like fill us in on all that.
Yeah, if you guys just want to, follow me, see what I'm doing, reach out, have questions about hotels, you're looking at one, whatever, we'll be happy to help. It's Blake J. Dailey on Instagram. So you can go hit me up on there. And then, we got a conference happening at my hotel in the Smokies. So at the 130 unit that we were talking about, we also have an event center there as well. So we'll be hosting the conference out of there. We'll be kind of in the midst of our renovation. So we'll have rooms that are completely done, rooms that are getting renovated, and like the before. So you get to actually see a boutique hotel project take place real time. And then everything that we're learning, right? Setting up your operations, building your team, how to find deals, how to raise capital, it'll all kind of come to light at that hotel. So I think it'll be super cool. And then lodging and food is included in that. So that's September 13th through the 15th in Southeast Tennessee, like by Knoxville. And if you guys want to come or just check it out and check out the tickets, it's boutiquehotelcon.com. So you can check that out. And then,
Yeah, I'm excited for that. There's so many conventions and so much real estate stuff, and I love what we do. And I love, bigger pockets, and there's all these cool ones, but I think this one is very niche, very unique. I think
very niche and very tangible. You're right. Like I go to a couple short-term rental conferences a year, a couple real estate conferences, but like, I just thought when creating this, is like, what's all the stuff missing out of the conferences I go to? I was like, how do I just put it here? It's like, imagine going to a house flipping conference where you get to flip a house. Well, this is a boutique hotel investing conference where you get to like see how the boutique hotel investing happens, like at a real hotel. So I just think it's super cool, man. I think it'll be a pretty cool opportunity for people. And I don't know, maybe I'm biased, but
well, I think it's unique. I don't think you're going to get this content many other places. You know what I mean? And so that's what's interesting to me, because like I've just, and I've only been in the game so many years, but man, you start reading enough of the books and they all sound the same. You go enough conventions, they all sound the same. And it's like, even if you're not super into boutique hotels, it's like, at least it's going to be new and interesting, and so I'm excited for it.
I appreciate it, man.
Well, sweet. Well, we're going to dive into our final 4 questions here, Blake. So question 1, if you had to start your whole real estate journey over, knowing what you know now, let's say you don't have the money, you don't have the, the portfolio, but you have the knowledge, what would be your first, second, and third move that you would do if you were starting over in
Ooh, man, I
2024?
might have to listen back to this to see if I answer this the same way as last March. But one, I'd find a good local meetup. I want to know everybody in my market who's doing deals, right? Who's the big investor? So if there's not a meetup, I'm starting one. And like that sounds wild to you, maybe, but like if there's not one, be the source of information for people. You don't have to be the expert, but you can set that up. So I would go to the meetup or meetups or create one if there wasn't one. Find everybody who's doing things. I would get crazy good at finding deals. Again, like just start up the driving for dollars, right? Very little capital involved. You can handwrite letters. You can put the envelopes on yourself. And for like, whatever, 90 cents, $1 per mailer, you can start getting leads. And then the people, so you can start to put together the pieces. So that's 1 and 2. And then my third step is really like the strategy of what I would look for. It'd be more it'd be my first like multi-unit short-term rental. So probably something residential, 1 to 4 units. And then that'd be a value add. So I would go to the real estate meetup. I'd find the deal, go to the real estate meetup, find the partner. Then I'd have that 1 to 4 unit deal. We'd value add it, improve the property, cash flow it as all short-term rentals. And I'd take the equity to go buy something new.
I hope everybody listened to that. Rewind that. Like Blake's not here by accident. I just love how calculated everything you're doing is. It's like, this is exactly what I would do. Boom. And it's so approachable.
You need deals and you need capital when you start. Find deals and find money.
And I love you, like, go to the meetups or start a meetup. Like, that's the number one thing to do to start networking and building. Because like I say, you're not playing a solo game. What you're doing, you're not doing a little house hack and then another house hack and then, rolling.
You need a team. You need people. Like you can't do it by yourself.
Yeah, it's cool. I love it. All right. Question number 2, book or podcast recommendation?
Book for just starting out. I think one that really helped me was Brandon Turner, the book on investing with low and no money down. And it's all about adding tools to your tool belt so that when you get a lead, right, you find a seller who's motivated, but you don't quite know how to get them over the finish line. That book helps you like with different ways you could, whether it's a wholesale, so you can make money on it. You can find a partner on it. You could do a lease option. You could do private money. You could do seller financing. Like you have so many different options if you can get the lead, but you need to have those tools in your tool belt to be able to do it. So that is a really good one. And then the podcast, this one, I mean, like I've met, all of you guys. I've been to your guys' conferences. This podcast is very, very tangible. I think helps people from a beginner, an intermediate, and an advanced level. So that is really good. And then no hit on bigger pockets, but I would just go back to one and like listen through 300 and just put them on like for like 3 months straight. And then after that, you don't really need to listen to anymore.
I love that, dude. I've thought the same thing. I'm like, the first few hundred episodes of Bigger Pockets were gold. They were gold.
They're bomb, dude. Yeah, they're super good. But after that, it's like, it's just kind of like the books. Like, how many times can you say the same thing? So, like, I get it. It's a, yeah. I don't know if you guys have the same thing with the podcast, but I think that's the trap, like, of having podcasts is like you can only have so much content around the same thing, and package it up so many different ways. But it just changed a little bit as the personnel changed. But.
For sure, I love that. Okay, question number 3. What is the most expensive or interesting mistakes that you've made in real estate?
Right now it feels like the USDA, man. They've cost me over 6 figures in delays right now. And I'm still trying to figure out the source of this mistake. So maybe in another 2 months I have a good answer. But I think just a lot of miscommunication between the agency and between the lender, and a lot of deferring responsibility. Like, oh, they should do this. Oh, they should do that. It's
so
like,
let's break that down a little bit, though. So the USDA, this is the loan you're trying to refinance the hotel.
Yeah, USDA is the government agency that's like, backing the funds, and then the lender actually it's similar to like SBA loans, right? The lender gives the money, the SBA backs it, or the VA. Like for VA loans, they don't actually loan money. The Office of Veterans Affairs does not loan money. They back and guarantee the lender's loan that goes out. So same thing happening here. We have an actual lender who I'm their client, right? They're the lender. They're
And this is
providing
for the
loans to me.
long-term debt on the place you already bought, this cool
Yes.
boutique
Bought it
hotel.
with bridge debt to get it closed by the end of the year, short-term, high interest, and then we're refinancing to this better loan, getting the lower interest rate, getting the renovation funds. So we have me, we have the lender, and then we have the agency. And there's all this communication, all these boxes that have to be checked. That's the government.
Yeah.
So lessons learned there of like keep the communication flowing between them, and sometimes like don't just be like a victim to this is how government stuff works. Like find out what the actual issue is and then push them to get it done. Like government stuff, they're very checkbox driven. If you meet their requirements, they'll push it along. So figure out what the dang requirement is. So being, obviously I worked 5 years in the government, so I understand that better, and in acquisitions no less. So same kind of stuff. So I'm just like, get them what they need. And if they don't know, I'll find it out for them. Like, hey, you need this, and we'll push forward. And then the other one was a bad renovation with a contractor that I did not vet his contractor's license. This is down in Florida. I hired a residential contractor. I've done this twice, but lesson learned. They were very close together in timing. But hired a residential contractor to do a commercial job, and he did it all wrong. We had to redo the work and paid him more money than that was actually done. So 6-figure mistake, lesson learned, better for it today. And all the hotels after that were that mistake wasn't made, and they're much, much better. So I think sometimes like don't be afraid to fail, but you do have big mistakes along the way. You just got to make sure your mistakes are never big enough to like wipe you out. Like that's what you got to think about on your risk mitigation. You can do it when you're young and like you don't have kids and stuff like that. Make the big risk, but always calculate it that it can't be the thing that bankrupts you.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I appreciate you sharing those. We can learn a lot from other people's learning curves. And, it's funny.
There's a million small ones too. There's like, I will be very transparent. I have got to where I am today, which is, I'm still going. Like, I don't feel like I'm the expert in a lot of regards, but I got here by failing, like a lot of small failures that learned to learning lessons and did the thing better the next time or bigger and better. And it's just like, you can't be too scared. Like, you've got to take the action, get the feedback from the marketplace, from whatever it is, and then go get it.
As long as those mistakes, you leverage it because now you have the increased knowledge to go do it safer and better.
Right. Which is why it's like you always take the risk to not bankrupt you, because even if you fail, you don't go bankrupt, you learn, and then you can go for it.
Yeah, I love it, man. All right. What is one word or short phrase to encapsulate why you love real estate investing?
Scalable. Like, unambiguously, just legitimately scalable. Like, anybody can do real estate. It's not easy by any means, but it's simple. Find good deals, find the right people, capital partners, whatever, to close that deal. Do that over time, and you become a millionaire, multi-millionaire with real estate. It is a long game, and it is very scalable.
I love it, man. Well, this is super cool. We look forward to your conference coming up in September. Look forward to following your journey. It's fun to have you back on in such a different phase of life.
I didn't realize I was the only repeat guest in all this time, so I am honored. Thanks for having me back.
Should be. We're glad to have you here. Look forward to hearing where you're at next year. I'm sure it'll be even bigger jumps than this.
Yeah, we finally got to go snowboard this winter, man. You got to rehab that knee, get it done. We'll go hit, Beaver or Park City, and we'll shred. You'll be like a whole new man. You'll have a bionic knee by then.
Heck yeah. Yeah, I just tore my MCL a few weeks ago, but hopefully I should be good by snowboard season. I'm looking forward to it. Let's make it happen.
Let's do it, man.
All right, Blake. Well, this is Joe Jensen signing off for the Real Estate Investing School podcast, reminding you to find your niche within the niche.